introducing the movie.
Yeah.
I'm Lucas.
I'm Cameron.
And this is the first episode of Film Factors where we're actually reviewing a movie that could be seen in like major theaters or whatnot. So Pass-Through was sort of an exception, and now this is the start of our regular movie reviews.
Although this is not the most wide-released movie, but it's out there somewhere.
Yes, and in fact the movie that we're reviewing today is Lo and Behold, Reveries of the Connected World by renowned filmmaker Werner Herzog. I think it's Werner Herzog, actually.
I will say beloved. The great thing about him is he's very good at both documentary and narrative filmmaking, which is something that many directors aren't.
Not only is he a great narrative filmmaker, but he's done a lot of documentaries. And I think, actually, he's made more documentaries in recent years than he has narrative films.
And this is maybe his most ambitious documentary yet?
Yes. It seems like with most of Werner Herzog's documentaries, you've had Grizzly Man,
Cave of Forgotten Dreams.
These are just to name a few, and these are documentaries that focus on a very central, specific topic. And with Lo and Behold, Reveries of the Connected World, he's literally focusing in on the entirety of the internet.
Yes, which the expanse of the topic kind of shows, especially in the structure of this movie, in that it's very segmented. You have many segments, each small one focusing on some aspect, from internet addiction to the future of artificial intelligence, and at points it almost goes past internet and becomes just future technologies.
If I'm correct, I believe I read that Lo and Behold was originally segmented. It was little shorts that he made for some sort of project, and then he combined them into a feature film.
That would
definitely make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and he kind of assumes that you know a lot about the internet. Like many of the more modern, the largest portion of this film's roughly 90-minute running time focuses on the future, I feel like. A lot of it is about the technology and robotics and artificial intelligence, how the internet, what is our future going to look like?
Yeah, definitely. I think, by focusing in on the internet, he's sort of focusing in on perhaps one of the largest topics.
Yeah.
Because, the internet is sort of used by so many people. It's sort of focusing in a way, on humankind, because the internet is so large, and I think instead of choosing to focus in on the way that we may use the internet, like going on Google and looking things up or communicating on social media, he's focusing on why was the internet invented, what can we do with the internet in the future,
and how they impact society and humanity, kind of. And from that standpoint, I find it actually quite thought-provoking and interesting. I feel like that this film is almost more a thought provocation more than it is like a structured, focused documentary film. Mm-hmm. It's almost there to provide you small little tidbits of facts and ideas to go search for yourself and discuss with people. And I feel like that is actually quite a valuable thing, even though it is kind of weird. Yeah,
it's a discussion starter. I feel like after watching the movie, I wasn't left with any sort of substantial knowledge as much as a bunch of tidbits of information that I could then use to go and explore further and come up with more expansive knowledge.
I actually appreciate that. And the other thing I love about Werner Herzog, especially his documentaries, is that you can tell it's him. Because he shows genuine interest, and also has, let's say, some very fun and weird questions and ideas about at some point he asks in this film, does the internet dream? And things like that I just love about his movies that only he would ask and only he's extremely interested in.
And he's like, do you think that the internet dreams of itself?
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer the question.
But and a lot of things like that, because it almost keeps it grounded and also keeps you interested in the movie. Even though as it is getting so cerebral and heady and big ideas and concepts, just little things like that almost make you laugh and make you appreciate his filmmaking, that he's almost telling the story and provoking these thoughts.
Well, I think Werner Herzog has inserted himself in this documentary in a way that he's sort of using it as a way to ground all the information around him, the person behind the camera. Yeah. Because so much of the movie is in this sort of very cerebral context of if artificial intelligence could do this, then it's using this sort of code or whatnot. And then he's sort of asking this broader philosophical question, and in a way it hits closer to home than any of the other.
And I love that because it shows that he has a lot of genuine interest. And you really feel that, and you really love that, and you really can get behind that and get into that, and that's what makes it almost human, I guess.
Yeah, real sense of exploration, which that's a great thing to have in a documentary.
And a real sense of directorship. Because documentaries can feel kind of detached, but this definitely doesn't. I love that about his work.
I even like that he chooses to leave in some of the parts that it seems like he was sort of it was sort of a cut that wouldn't have maybe been in there, when the person runs across the bridge and he's like, you need no further introduction.
Yeah, and also just those random shots that linger, so people can contemplate and think about things, and I appreciate that.
I think due to the certain scattershot nature of the documentary, there are certain points that are just kind of weird. like, sort of at the top when he's talking about internet addiction, and then there's this part when he, after he interviewed this one person, he's just like, I wanted to ask this lady about this malevolent druid dwarf.
Yeah.
And then it's done.
And also a random bit where he pretends like the entirety of Chicago has left to go to Mars and there's monks or something.
Yeah, that was weird.
It was weird but strangely entertaining.
Without sort of any real context. It was entertaining for me, but then to a certain point after that I was just like, what was that?
Yeah, I feel like that is the main problem with this movie. It is just the broken up structure of it. It just feels structured really oddly, and despite how much philosophical and big ideas it packs in and really questions you, it just doesn't feel cohesive and nicely together kind of as a movie.
Definitely. I think because it's so scattershot, I think because of the nature of sort of the vast nature of the documentary, it could have used a bit more of a refined focus on some specific points. I think it's both the greatest attribute and the flaw of this movie because, well, it's nice to have a documentary that sort of provides so many different tidbits of information. It's also harder to take away any sort of like substantial things from it. And that I almost wish that he had chosen to delve a little bit deeper into really what, in a real world context, the internet means to the vast majority of the public. Because in talking to a lot of these scientists and maybe some internet pioneers, it's very interesting. But I feel like when confronted with the ability to explore a topic as vast as the internet, he got lost in some of the sort of like outlier segments of the topic. And so he's interested in colonies on Mars.
Many of his interests in some way really facilitate, like, just showcase a wide variety of what almost humanity is doing through the internet in some weird way. And I guess thinking about that almost makes me more okay with it, although, like I said, it's not ideal. So.
I guess overall I would say that it's a good documentary. I think it's better as a collection of vignettes. Sort of documentary vignettes and tidbits for thought, which I think is valid. Which is valid, So that makes it an effective and good documentary. I'd say as a cohesive documentary film, it's not the strongest, but as a collection of short documentaries, it's actually quite interesting.
It's something like a web series, something like that and like that. But that didn't honestly I didn't particularly hate that or didn't really hamper my score that much.
No.
Score time?
Score time.
Ooh, fun. Ooh, fun.
Where it's like if you give a movie an A and it's like a dumb movie, but it was something that was really entertaining and thus it was good, but maybe it wasn't good for the reason that you might think it was good. So just sort of giving it overall cohesive grade of a movie that actually incorporates each individual element of what makes a movie great.
The entertainment value, like how enjoyable was it to watch some movies or some movies overly are without having any substance or ideas. The technical quality, how was it edited, paced, shot, etc. Was there anything problem with that? Was there anything exceptional with that? And the substance of it all, what thematically or emotionally did you take it away, and was that satisfying to you?
Right. Okay. So I'll start it off. I'd say this is actually an easy one for me. Entertainment value, I'm going to give this movie a 7. I think that this was a highly entertaining documentary, especially because it's done by Werner Herzog, so there's a lot of entertaining tidbits in there, funny things that he says. I was constantly engaged throughout the movie, so I thought it was very entertaining.
And entertainment value, I have to give it an 8, because something about his style of humor and his style of being able to create small, funny, interesting, engaging moments, I just loved and thought he nailed it perfectly here.
Okay. Technical filmmaking aspect, I'm also going to give this movie a 7. I think it was a competently made documentary. It's never flashy. The shots are sort of like, shots you would expect in a documentary. There's nothing that's like crazily like technically amazing, but it's very competently done. It gets the job done.
Yeah, although I give it an 8. Again, I guess I'm just liking it a bit more than him, honestly.
And in substance, I told you this was going to be an easy one for me. Substance, I'm also giving this movie a 7. I think that overall, this movie gives a lot of really interesting tidbits of information, and it's definitely a discussion prompter. So if you go and see this movie, you're definitely going to have a discussion afterwards, and it's probably going to be a really interesting discussion with a lot of even philosophical ideas. This movie has a lot of that. However, I do think that this functions better as a series of vignettes, if you think about it like that. But it's definitely good, especially because of how interesting it is.
I would disagree with that. I mean, it's not substantially first of all, I gave it an 8, which is definitely an 82. But I don't think substantial cohesion for something like this is, I guess, if you're going to go with destruction, if you're going to tackle such a big thing, I feel like it's extremely hard to gain a large amount of substantial cohesion from something like this. I guess if you are going to lay it out in this manner, and if he really wants to go in that direction, I'm okay almost with it, with each one being its own idea. And I feel like there is enough overlap amongst them to justify it. Like, the talk of artificial intelligence makes the idea of how do we mix with, like, how do we interact with technology in the future, things like that. I feel like there is slight overlap amongst them, and enough overlap that I feel like it was connected enough that you could almost glean bigger ideas out of it.
Toodaloo.